Hey guys, Bowie here, and today we'll take a look on why pro players are running Support Zeus. The first thing we have to talk about is his burst damage potential. He can deal, with his spells alone, at level 1, 250 damage in the span of 6 seconds. Very few heroes can do that. In fact, I think almost no hero that uses spells can do that, and that's why he is really great at early game, whilst most people would maybe disagree. If you take a look at the Night Stalker, he has about 500 HP, but by using the tower aggro perfectly and having a mango, Insania is able to dive and kill a Night Stalker. This hero is all about mana rationing. When Insania wards from the fog here, know that he has a clarity going, and he keeps that clarity going till the end of the fight top, pulling out a lot of extra lightning bolts because of it. Another great trait of Zeus is being able to deward without crowding the courier, without spending any gold. And in this fight, we can see how the burst damage of Zeus is dirty. Usually people think of Lion as a hero that has great burst damage, and he has it, but the difference between him and Zeus is the downtime. Lion has 1000 damage at level 7 with stun plus his ult, but the cooldown is huge. Zeus has the same amount on a lower cooldown, but with the downtime of 6 seconds. In this fight though, he didn't even need the second lightning bolt to secure the kill. One of the real beauties of this hero is the ease of execution. Watch this fight from Insania. From far away and with almost no risk, he dishes an insane amount of damage, and when we check the net worth in this game, he's not even playing that great of a role. He's the lowest net worth behind the Tusk in his own team, and yet can deal more damage than his really farmed PL. Zeus has a very effective way of knowing whether a fight is worth for his team or not. By pressing R, Insania can quickly assess whether the Night Stalker is alone or not, and even though he's a beefy boy, they can commit to this risky nighttime fight since they know for sure there's not enough backup for him instantly. Not only that, but they can keep following up after it just because they got a glimpse of vision. This is probably all I want to show from this replay, but if you didn't notice, he is against Mirana right now. Mirana is the strongest position 4 without a doubt in dispatch, even after all the nerfs she suffered, and yet Mirana loses this game. Support Zeus has a huge win rate right now, and I think part of it is because he's a natural Mirana counter, not only because of his true sight, but because Mirana is a squishy Agi hero and Zeus dishes a lot of burst damage. We already talked about Zeus and his magical powers to deward, but the greatest part of Zeus is that you don't have to be actively looking for wards to find him. It's not like this hero has to use Lightning Bolt differently to look for wards, so as he zones and harasses Radiant to fight for the rune, he already starts with one observer ahead of the enemy. This hero is definitely not 100% intuitive to play as a support, especially if you're used to normal supports. When I say normal, I mean that usually the standard supports have better mana pools, and while they offer maybe less burst, they feel as if they have more mana. And with Zeus, you either commit and get kills, or you end up feeling useless, and that's why Tims like the Earthshaker build that much. Since you will have times with very long downtime, having boots and clarities allows you to stack, roam while you wait for a time where you feel strong enough to get kills. In this tower fight where Radiant dives too deep, you can clearly see how we would have more damage to kill Dazzle even if he played more cautiously. Exactly because of the mana issues we talked about, most Zeus goes for the passive at level 2. If you think about it, most heroes at this stage have about 600-700 HP, and that means you're dealing 42 extra damage with your passive when you Lightning Bolt for 0 mana, or you could deal 70 damage spending 80 mana. That's a lot. As a general rule, it just makes more sense to get the passive, but you will see people getting arc lighting at level 2 sometimes. Another thing that Zeus is really good at is stacking multiple camps. That's somewhat of a thing that is great for a long time, but a lot of players still forget about it. With the bonuses to stacking, there's a lot of heroes, especially those who can stack multiple camps at once, who can benefit from stacking a little more. While we talked a lot about the fact that Zeus has reliable damage in fights, what's really crazy and great about this hero is the ability to know at any time where the enemies are. Are they smoked, for instance? Yes, Core Zeus brings the same thing to the table, but Zeus as a core has a lot of counters. He cannot push towers, he only offers magical damage, whereas Zeus as a support cares less about all of that, while still offering all of the true sight and global aspects that the hero brings. In terms of talents, almost all of the players attempting Support Zeus go for the experienced one instead of the mana regen. It's quite tempting to get a mana regen, but it's not like you're going to shove that many waves and farm that much. In general, if you have arcanes and use clarities, you will have mana for the mid-game fight, and since a lot of times you want to get Ag straight up, having the level 20 talent as fast as possible is a must to make everything click. But there is a caveat to this. Keep watching. In this game, as soon as Tims finishes his eggs, we can already see Nimbus coming to play big time, and this is why the hero is and can be so good. Doesn't matter where you are, you still have a way to provide a stun, damage, true sight, you name it. Morana was a hero I talked about in one of the last replays, but Sand King is another boy that has a huge win rate and is really hard to deal with because the warding can be really hard as a position 5, especially when the Sand King knows exactly where to plant the sentries. With Lightning Bolt, you get flying vision of the entire area, giving you kill potential on the Sand King and a chance to take his sentries away too. This hero can be really greedy in the sense that a lot of the times you don't want to be in fights, especially depending on how much gap close the enemy has. At the same time though, when you have decent game sense, wasting a support ult to save cores from a small gank means your cores keep farming while the enemy wasted time. You can clearly see Tims ult not only saving his Legion, but now they know exactly where Dire is and they cannot do anything against them. After Dire leaves their side of the map, he can quickly deal ward without spending gold, meaning he continues to progress towards his eggs. We did mention the fact that Zeus has a couple of counters as a core. Those same heroes also counter you as a support Zeus. The usual difference is that they are getting way less in return from killing you, but this was a core reason for Tims not showing in fights as much. He is an easy target for the Storm, and he is also a hero that deals a ton of damage, and if you ever pick Zeus early to play as a support, be aware that picks like Storm can come, and you have to play around this gap closer as well, or you're going to feel really bad the entire game. Tims even jungle a couple of times this game because he always felt forced to never show if the Storm also did not do the same thing, and eventually though, his allies get engaged by the Storm, and now he knows he can walk up to the fight since Storm is out of mana, eventually getting the kill. That's usually how we want to handle heroes like Storm. I'm not sure whether you were paying attention or not, but almost every support Zeus goes for the exact same build. Sometimes they get arc lighting at level 2 instead of the passive, but at level 11, they all look like this if they are rushing eggs. The reason for them to max the passive is simple. As a support Zeus, you will be mana hungry most of the time, and also, because you level up slower than other heroes, you get more damage from the passive than your Q. You literally spend 3 skill points for arc lighting that starts at 70 damage to then deal 140 damage. With the passive, you also spend 3 points to double the damage that you deal with the passive, but you also need to remember that the enemy heroes are getting stronger every second. Sand King here has 1440 HP, so he takes extra 170 damage per spell used. So your arc lighting deals 240 damage at level 1, and if he max Q instead, it would deal 226 per arc lighting, and you get very little benefit. You already push waves relatively well, and usually you don't have the luxury of using your spells that much in fights. So if you can press R close to the enemy and your passive is maxed, you already did huge work in the fight. Also, Nimbus does count with your passive, so usually you're not gonna be level 20 when you finish your eggs. You're probably not gonna have the luxury of learning all of your skill points, so maxing the passive if you're rushing eggs is usually what you want. And we're talking about Nimbus. As he completes the item here, again, he gets a kill for his score just as the item is done. One of the best things about Zeus is the fact that you can quickly and effortlessly do ward, especially since the cooldown of Lightning Bolt is the same at every level. Cotto very aggressively shows up, not only to check the rune, but he instantly denies the rune at nighttime. You don't do that unless you have vision of a specific and potentially great rune waiting there, so check how Handsken can use that knowledge to free the map of one ward. People oftentimes think that Zeus is a useless supporting lane. There's clearly some nuance on how to use his mana correctly, but watch this fight. He starts with arc lighting to make sure the rain drop prevents less damage, and the end result is him dealing almost the same damage as his gyrocopter that already has ult. Seconds after that fight, he gets his tome and he can quickly go for the Cotto kill. Note that again, as he goes for a fight, he spots a sentry and can take it out without spending a dime. I think one of the hardest decisions when playing Support Zeus is whether to go for eggs or Aetherlands. Aetherlands is clearly a faster build-up, and I think in general is an item you build against heroes with a lot of reach, which Radiant definitely has. Dire also has this super skirmishy team fight lineup, so being there and fighting with the team is obviously going to happen easier and faster with an item like Aetherlands as opposed to eggs. In this specific case though, know that he doesn't max the passive, and he also gets the mana regen talent. This means he's going to be more focusing pushing lanes from afar, and he's obviously gonna be spending more mana, right? So if you max your Q, you're gonna spam that spell in fights, and that kind of makes up for the experience talent in a way, but also means he has to carry his positioning since he won't deal as much damage with his ult plus passive, so you gotta make sure that your damage counts during the fights. This lane right here is a great example of why Zeus is better in lane than most people give it credit for. The 6-second cooldown on Lightning Bolt means that even at level 1, when most heroes would be out of gas after using their spell, he can still keep going and get a kill without dying. Zeus is a great hero if you're really good at keeping tabs at support movement, where fights happen and where you die. Kingar is being zoned out of their tier 2 bottom here, and note that he lighting both the area here, and he sees support movement, and then he quickly dies to a random Ember that knew exactly where he was. If you pay attention, Dire is owning this game, but they do win, so watch how Zeus helped that happen. Kingar obviously noticed that there was a ward there. He could take it away. Venge quickly takes the ward with the sentry, but you know, don't spam sentries like that if you do have Zeus. And as we talked about, this game is very hard, and even though they are 9,000 gold behind, Radiant takes this fight in between their tier 3 and tier 2 middle. The fact that you deal percentage-based damage means that your hero is strong even when your opponents are really strong. And look at the fight recap from this engagement. Kingar deals the highest damage by far, and he doesn't even have Nimbus yet. Not sure if I mentioned this yet, but Kingar is the highest damage in the game by far as well, even though he is almost the lowest net worth in the entire game. This is one of the many reasons Support Zeus is great. You offer a lot of damage, but you have to know how to position yourself, and ideally you want to have some lockdown too. The way Kingar fights here is beyond commendable. He doesn't have Aether Lens, so fighting even at nighttime is really dangerous. Note how he is constantly looking for the shorter angle to the Dire enemies, whilst not putting himself in a bad spot. He also has ult available, but understands that ulting before Void is there is just a waste of time. So he just spams his abilities to the best of his ability, and by maintaining pristine positioning and living through it all, he farms almost 2,000 gold in this fight. By the way, he dealt more damage than his entire team again in that fight, but you can't be too eager or hasty or else you're gonna die. This hero is really easy to mess up. One thing I feel is worth mentioning that was not super clear is that people that go for the eggs build don't max Q because your eggs procs your passive, and that's another reason for people learning the static field talent at level 15 rather than the move speed. Usually if you rush eggs, you're going to be playing from really far behind anyways, so the move speed is not that interesting when playing Support Zeus that rushes Aghanim Scepter. And you know, look what happens in the subsequent fights. The gold advantage is still massive towards Dire, but with Ags and Chrono, things slowly start to become a nuisance, and Kingar wins this game as well. Guys, thank you very much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. I know I've been missing a little bit. I was casting Midas mode in Portuguese, and then in this, 2 last days, I was a little, I don't know, I was not really feeling that great, but we are back with a couple of videos. I'm not really that happy because I'm just, wishing for a new patch. I feel like there's not that many interesting stuff to talk about, so pardon me if the video is not that good. It's just that I don't think there's a lot of things to discover anymore in the patch, but I'll try my best. And people constantly ask for support guides, so here we go. Zeus, pretty fun hero to play, pretty good hero to gain MMR, I heard. And yeah, thank you for watching, and bye.